Hi. Those who've seen my videos in the past know that I try to cover Jewish topics that are either misunderstood or not discussed in Jewish life. Well, today is no exception. I'm going to try to discuss Judaism's view on hunting, and I'm sure you'll be surprised at the outcome. I'm sure you've heard it, right? Hunting in Judaism, it's not allowed. Well, that statement is not completely accurate. I'm going to try to explain how it is allowed in certain cases and how you could probably dust off your daddy's old shotgun for next year's hunting season. Still with me? I knew I'd get your attention with this one. One of the major reasons that many assume that hunting is prohibited in Judaism is because of kashrus. Now, that's true. Unless you're trapping and shechting the otherwise kosher animal, the meat of the animal hunted would not be permitted for consumption. On the other hand, just because an animal is prohibited as food does not mean it is prohibited for other uses. For example, I'm sure the rabbis of old had no problem with hunting animals for their furs. This would not be considered sport hunting, which definitely is not allowed in Judaism under any circumstances because it is seen as cruel and wasteful. But hunting with a useful, constructive purpose is allowed. Also, due to the feminization of most Jews have a problem with the killing of animals in general, not because of religious reasons. And those who eat meat only eat meat because it's slaughtered elsewhere. We see this with the ridiculous outrages the religious community displayed in the viewing of slaughtered bloody steer in the agri-processors plant in Postville, Iowa, even when all the rabbis agreed that the meat was still kosher. Well, actually, this culminated in the plant ultimately closing earlier this year. I can't tell you how many religious vegetarians I met who've adopted that lifestyle after being exposed to some kosher slaughtering video. So, it's ultimately not a religious issue, but a secular, liberal Jewish one. To veer off the subject a bit, I have to say, there is absolutely no basis in Judaism to assume that vegetarianism makes people more humane. And there's actually plenty of counter evidence to this, such as the famous concern of animal rights by the Nazi German leadership. Ecological concern is also alright in Judaism as long as protecting the environment and endangered species is being done as a part of servicing human needs. Even in biblical times, animals were killed for many purposes other than just food. The children of Israel were clearly ordered to wrap the holy utensils of the tabernacle in animal furs when moving from one camp to another. These animal furs came from animals which were unclean for purposes of eating, which is essentially equivalent to saying they were hunted for their pelts. Also, there were instances when animals were used cruelly for frivolous purposes, such as Samson tying torches to foxes' tails and setting them loose in the fields of the Philistines, and when Moses asked God to exterminate the frogs of Egypt, heaping them on rotting piles as a part of the ongoing negotiations with Pharaoh over the freeing of the Israelite slaves. God also chooses to drown all the Egyptians' horses and kill the livestock of the Egyptians as a part of his plan to liberate the Israelites. Nothing was stopping him from selecting an alternative plan that did not involve violating the so-called rights of these animals. So, this is not stating that we should do the same, but rather to teach that the environmental Jewish kooks really cannot base their animal worship on Scripture. So let's review some points we've just covered. Cruelty to animal that does not serve any human purpose, cruelty for its own sake is prohibited. And that would include hunting with dogs or even bullfighting, which is clearly brought down by Chazal as a very cruel and prohibitive action. Rabbi Yeheskel Landa, the rabbi of Prague, known by his great work, the Noda B'Yehuda, was asked whether it is permissible to hunt animals. Clearly, if the animal is shot with a musket, even a species of animal that is kosher to start off with, the corpse is considered a nevela if it died immediately, or treifa if it was injured, such that it is not fit for Jewish consumption. But if the hunting was done in a way to provide for one's needs, it's allowed. And one may not be cruel and kill animals purely for entertainment. Hunting for pleasure is a form of cruelty that destroys a person's inner qualities and traits. He also writes that causing suffering to animals, sar ba'alei chaim, and swiftly killing them, as ethical hunters attempt to do today, is not the same because the prohibition involves causing suffering to an animal while it is alive. So ethical hunting could not be prohibited on that basis. So let's recap. Hunting in Jewish law is permitted only if it has a positive benefit to humans, Also, the animal meat that is being hunted is used either for food or skin, or is used to benefit humans in any other shape or form. For example, you could donate the meat to a Feed the Needy organization, which in the U.S. annually receives over 100,000 pounds of hunted meat to feed the poor. Also, you can use it to feed your pets. And if it's done for environmental purposes like thinning out deer herds or hunting predators to save crops and endangered species, it's allowed. So, what's the first step to kosher hunting today? Yearly, thousands of near-fatal car accidents occur in the U.S. mainly because of overpopulation of deer. Also, the overpopulation of one species can cause the whole species to become extinct for many reasons, such as food reserves. It also puts them in an increased risk of disease and also carries the potential for mass starvation. In many forests, trees are effectively not reproducing because deer eat up seedlings before they can be established. In other places, deer have put many wildflower species in danger of local extinction. Wild boar or hog hunting is desperately needed in the U.S. mainly because this foreign species damages entire crops and spread disease. Now, this form of hunting is allowed and encouraged by wildlife management areas, where government ecologists come out with a yearly report on certain areas that need to be decreased of a certain species. These agencies will issue licenses and quotas accordingly to achieve their goals. However, due to the hippie liberal education that has feminized our country's males, the proportion of hunters in general has declined steadily over the last 4 decades, going from 11% in 1960 to 8.3% by 1990 and to about 6% in 2001. The wild game population in the U.S. is estimated at an all-time high, to the point that we have more wild game today in the U.S. than ever in history. Now, being a kosher hunter means that you must always use the appropriate weapons and ammunition for the game you're hunting. In other words, in this area, bigger is better. So, because we're looking on striking a quick kill as to make the animal feel as little pain as possible. Actually, wildlife management areas require you to take a minimum 18-hour hunter safety course that will instruct you on the proper way of killing animals in the woods. For example, when hunting deer, one should not use anything less than, let's say, a 30-30 round. However, larger rounds such as a 30-06 or a 308 are preferred. But you can use the best no-miss solution out there, which is a 12-gauge double-lock buckshot. This baby scatters, so it's great for those whose marksmanship is a bit off. The same holds true when hunting boar. Also, Jews interested in hunting should make it a habit to go to the range regularly to improve their marksmanship so as not to hit their game improperly and cause the animal to flee and not be found. And also vital spots. Okay, for deer, the vital spots for a shot is about here, and a boar is about here. Well, that's pretty much it, and I'll see you on the trail. Good luck.